The Wicked Soothsayer. After leaving Trot and her companions to the mercies of Quiberon, Akbad flew quickly to the king's garden, intending to rid himself of the golden wings and say nothing at all about his curious adventure. But before he had come to the enchanted tree, the king and half of the courtiers came rushing out of the sapphire palace. "My son? Where is my son?" panted Cheeriobed, seizing Akbad by the arm, not even noticing the great wings that drooped from the soothsayer's shoulders. "The prince! Where is the prince?" demanded Toddledy in the same breath. "Miserable mesmerizer, can you think of nothing?" Akbad, worn and weary from his long flight, fairly blinked with astonishment, for naturally he knew nothing of Philidor's disappearance, but he realized that he would be severely punished for stealing the golden pear. He felt that Quiberon had probably devoured the little prince, but resolved for the present to save himself. "Have no fear for the Prince of the Osier Isles," he began boldly. "I, Akbad the soothsayer, have saved him." "How? Where?" The king plucked him frantically by the arm. "He is safe in the Emerald City," lied Akbad calmly. "Last night, determined to save not only the prince but our fair islands as well, I picked the golden pear." A little murmur of disapproval greeted Akbad's statement, and they all looked curiously and accusingly at the golden wings, which they seemed to see for the first time. "Immediately," continued the wily soothsayer, "these wings attached themselves to my shoulders. Flying into the prince's bedchamber, I lifted him in my arms and carried him to the great capital of Oz. Leaving him in the kindly care of our gentle ruler, Ozma, I stole into the garden and, seizing a mortal maiden, returned to the Osier Isles and left her in the cave of Quiberon." Folding his arms proudly, he waited for the king's commendation. "That was very wrong of you," sighed Cheeriobed, letting his arm drop heavily at his side, "but I suppose you did it for the best." "Idiot," hissed Toddledy, "why did you not ask Ozma to help us?" "I did," declared Akbad promptly. "As soon as the wizard returns from the Blue Forest, she will journey to our illustrious islands, destroy Quiberon, and restore His Majesty's Queen." Even Toddledy was silenced by this surprising news, while the Osier Islanders began to cheer loud and lustily. Only the king still seemed disturbed. "But the mortal maiden, we must save the mortal maiden," exclaimed Cheeriobed anxiously. "You should never have carried her to that monster's cave. Who will go with me to rescue this poor child?" The islanders looked uncomfortably at one another, then as the king started resolutely off by himself, a dozen of the boldest guards followed. "We can only perish once," declared the leader gallantly, "and to be destroyed with your majesty is not only an honor but a pleasure as well." Akbad made no attempt to accompany them, but the others, shamed by such bravery, dashed hurriedly after the king. When the last one had gone, Akbad stepped quietly into the garden. Sinking down under the emerald tree, he mopped his brow with his sleeve and cursed his own stupidity. Why had he not done as he had said, appealed to Ozma for help instead of foolishly seizing the mortal maiden? Perhaps it was not too late. He would fly back and beg Ozma to find the little prince and save the Osier Isles. Hoarsely he commanded the wings to take him to the Emerald City, but motionless and heavy they hung from his shoulders. Horrified to find that they would no longer obey him, he rubbed against the tree in an unsuccessful effort to brush them off. Then he tried every magic phrase and incantation that he knew to rid himself of the golden wings, but though he pulled and tugged, the wings stuck fast. Now having wings sounds fine enough, but one must be born with wings to wear them comfortably. Akbad could neither sit nor lie down with any ease, and when he walked the wings trailed disturbingly behind him. He found, after several trials, that he could still fly, but not beyond the shore of the island, and as he sank exhausted on the rocks, the king and his army came marching back. They had tramped boldly into the monster's cave, but had of course found neither Quiberon nor Trot. As they knew nothing of the caves beyond the waterfall, they had sadly turned homeward. The king at least was sad. The others, while they said nothing of it, were secretly delighted to find themselves alive. "Criberin has gone," declared Cheeriobed gravely. "The mortal maiden also has vanished. But as you have saved Philidor, I shall say nothing of the stealing of the golden pear. There is naught to do now but wait for the coming of Ozma and the little prince. And no doubt Ozma will find a way to save this mortal child." "No doubt," muttered Akbad, and, as the king shaking his head went on up to the palace, the soothsayer flew into a tall tree and tried to think up the excuses he would offer His Majesty when Ozma failed to appear. As for Cheeriobed, troubled though he was over the disappearance of the little mortal, he could not help but think that the worst of his misfortunes were over. Almost cheerfully, he bustled about giving orders for a grand reception to welcome Ozma to his island kingdom and bidding the royal household have everything in readiness for Philidor's return. King Cheeriobed.